check. 1, 2, 1, 2, check.
We're called to order. We have a quorum. We're operating under our emergency rules, respecting the COVID with everybody 6 feet apart and masked and other protocols that apply to how we take public comments. We have all 6 attending. Mr. Tucker, I'm sure, is on the way because he wouldn't want to miss today being the Navy birthday, 245 years old today, right, Danny? I think we have at least one naval person here today. There you go with Danny, and thank you for your service. 245 years, older than the country itself. It's a great day in Kershaw County, in this all-America county. And indeed, we're celebrating our democratic values during this crisis with a great voter registration, conducting absentee voting right now. I think we're approaching some 3,000 voters already, 500 on the first day. And I want to thank everyone here for supporting our voter registration down at the arena as that goes forward. But unfortunately, we have things also to grieve for. We've lost about 4 people to COVID since the last time we assembled in this room. And moreover, we've lost Jill Cato's husband, our treasurer's husband. So I ask you all to join me in a solemn moment of silence for those that we have lost. Amen. So we are called to order. I'm going to ask Mr. Gardner to lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the opportunities afforded to us and also the blessings that you bestow upon us each and every day. Father, we ask for your healing hand with this COVID-19 as it's affecting us in so many ways and taking so many of our friends and family, and we just ask for prayers that you would help us to eradicate this in the very near future. We also pray for our county, our state, and our nation with the upcoming elections. We ask that you would look over those and lead us into some form of democracy as that's the country that we are. Father, help us as we sit here tonight and do our county's business. We ask for your wisdom and guidance. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gardner, indeed, and especially for the blessings on the families who've lost loved ones. With that, we turn to the business of the county with public comments. First of all, we are in an emergency situation, so we allow for comments emailed in. Lauren, has Mary passed any to you? Okay, so we have no written comments tonight from those who could not come here tonight. So with that, we go to Mr. DeBose. Sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, one person signed up, Rochelle Alexander.
Thank you very much. And we'll keep it to about 5 minutes in the comment.
Mine's going to quick. It ain't going to take that long. I only have
Very
three
good.
things to say.
All right.
First thing on Broad and York Street, there's a light and there's a stop. A white line where you're supposed to stop when the trucks come around. When you're supposed to park behind the white thing, the trucks are making wide stops and almost hit me the other day. That's the first thing. The second thing is trash dumping. They say you're supposed to stop trash dumping on people's property. They still doing it. Third thing, airplanes. What are the patterns they're supposed to fly with people's property, and what is the height limit on private planes or people's property? That's all I got. Those 3 things.
Thank you very much, and we can get in touch with you. You got his address. Thank you very much, and we'll get back to you. Thank you very much. With that, any further public comments, Mr. DeBose?
That concludes the sign-up list.
We move to adoption of agenda. It's on the screen in front of you. May we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Mr. Gardner, a second, if I could get you.
Second.
David, thank you. From Mr. Snodgrass. Lauren, if you'll record that. Any comments on the agenda? Doesn't seem to be any. Let's move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and the agenda is approved. With that, we move to a series of items. Let me catch up on my electronic device. And the first one is a very pleasant duty. It's a resolution honoring Chief Retired Harold Brown. I thought I'd never say that. It's at tab A, and it's also at page 4 in your electronic books. I think what we'll do is I will read the resolution, and then we will take a motion and move through the process. So with that, let me read the resolution in honor of Chief Harold Brown upon his retirement as Elgin Police Chief. Whereas for 27 years, the town of Elgin has called Harold Brown the Chief. And there he is. And whereas when he started as chief in 1993 as a favor to Mayor Pete James, he was the only officer for the town and fulfilled the duty with no reliable weapons and driving a used North Carolina Patrol Mustang with the seat bolted in by a 2x4. Shortly after coming on as chief, he wrote and was awarded a grant to hire a second officer, and the first of many grants that Chief Brown wrote to help meet the needs of Elgin Police Department at least cost to taxpayers. Whereas, through his tireless devotion to the people of the town, he grew the Elgin Police Department to the fine department of today, and includes the chief, a reserve officer, full-time officers, one part-time officer, one Class 3 officer, a K-9 unit, and one constable assigned to Elgin. Additionally, the police department has been home to 2 drug dogs, Hunter, who has since passed on, and today, Nyla. And whereas, through his years serving, Chief Brown has been awarded numerous honors, to include a letter of commendation in 1993 for saving the life of a suicidal person, Elgin Citizen of the Year in 1995, twice named Officer of the Year by the American Legion and by the VFW, Bob Larson Post, and is forever enshrined in the American Police Hall of Fame in December of 2007 for a distinguished achievement. And whereas his contributions extended well beyond police duties, he was the iconic figure in organizing events to include parades in Elgin and in giving of his personal time with various charitable ventures, including the Toy Roundup and Caring Hands nonprofit, which he started with his wife, Kathy. Of course, there's Kathy. In just one event, he furnished Christmas gifts for around 205 children, food for over 65 families, fruit baskets for over 70 senior citizens in the last year, and a trailer load of canned goods to the local food bank. And whereas his influence extends to citizens and children alike throughout the county, through thousands of small acts of service that often go unseen or unmentioned. His example of selfless service comes from the heart, leading by example in the thick of the hard work, never seeking credit for himself, but rather for his team and for Elgin and Kershaw County. Therefore, be it resolved that we, the Kershaw County Council, recognize the community spirit, patriotic passion, and unparalleled personal commitment by Chief Harold Brown and his wife, Kathy, through 27 years of devoted, unstinting public service, which has brought lasting honor to himself, his family, the town of Elgin, and to Kershaw County in the finest traditions of police forces everywhere. Can we have a motion to approve?
So made.
Thank you, Mr. Bozard. Second?
Second.
Mr. Connell and his district. And with that, I think we have some matters in defense to be offered by the mayor and sheriff. Can we ask y'all to come forward? And Mayor Emmons, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Council, for this moment of recognition for someone who deserves far more than what any of us could ever attempt to give him. I wasn't prepared to say anything tonight. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to say a lot because I'll end up boo-hooing, and I don't think the public would like to see that. It's not pretty. But I'm just going to say a couple of things. First and foremost, I've known the chief all my life, and I refer to him as the chief. He will always be my chief. More than that, he's my friend, and I just appreciate the time that I've had to grow up and get to know him. I think my fondest memories of him are going to be when he portrayed Smokey in the parade, and it's just been a pleasure, an honor, a privilege to work alongside him. He has put up with a lot with me over the last 15 years. I think he's had to tolerate me more so during that time period than any time before. I received many a times a stern look, and when I received that look, I knew I had either said something or done something, or I was heading down the wrong path. And I just appreciate those looks, and I appreciate many other things. But more than anything, I appreciate the man. He's a legend, and I guess the way that I will always, like I said, he's always my chief. But more than that, he's Elgin. He defines our community. He always will. And I strive to attempt to serve in some small capacity as much as he did, because he served us extremely well. So I just want to say thank you for recognizing him.
Thank you, Mayor. Sheriff.
Couple of things that I'm going to say the same thing the mayor said. Chief Harold Brown, that title chief is something well-deserved, well-earned, and will always go with you. Everywhere you go, people will always know you as the chief. Living legend, that's another thing. I know the chief's not big on himself, and he's not big on somebody bragging on him, but he is a true living legend. We did lunch earlier today, and we talked about some legends that both of us had worked with. And although he don't like to talk about himself, that's what we're here for, to talk about him. There's a lot of war stories we shared, and we will share in the future. There's a lot of things that are still pending trial and still under the statute of limitations, so I can't go into a whole lot of details there, and won't want to bore you with war stories. But I've learned a lot from Chief Brown, a lot of things that I hope he can see through my career that I've learned from him, and I appreciate that knowledge. And like I said, he's retired. We're still doing lunch, so I'm still draining him of that knowledge every opportunity I get. He's a great man. Today, we're all about supporting our local economy, but Chief Brown and I, we kind of share the same thing. When we're somewhere eating, if somebody walks up to us, we're going to stop what we're doing and talk. We never lose sight of who we work for, the public. So people will come up and say, I hate to bother you, but you're not bothering us. We really appreciate it when you come. We like to be approachable. So today we decided to go outside of the county, somewhere where we can sit down and talk. Well, he's not just a living legend here. He's a living legend anywhere else. So we didn't get a whole lot of talking time at the table because everybody that came in knew him. Don't know who paid for our meal there, but when you're sitting with a living legend, stuff like that happens. We appreciate everything you've done for Kershaw County and everything you've done for Elgin. And again, you'll always be our chief, and whether you like the title or not, you'll always be a living legend. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Sheriff. Let's hear from council. Al, you had the honors, please.
Thank you very much. I met you twice, and that's only half of it. I read about you a lot. People in Elgin tell me about you and what you've done, especially for the kids, and I want to say thank you very much.
Mr. Connell, it's your district, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief Brown, it's very unique for someone to devote themselves to one purpose so consistently for so long and with great results. It's a great example, really, of service for decades to one cause, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Others, please? Mr. Snodgrass.
Sure. Chief, thank you for your service, and guys like you that make Kershaw County great. So thank you for being a great example.
Others?
Yeah, I just say I met Chief 30-plus years ago when I went into business. He's with the county, and I think we can find that and say that what a great law enforcement person that he was. But I think that if you heard today, he's even a better person. So congratulations, Chief.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. Chief Brown, you are here, aren't you? Is he?
Yeah.
Didn't recognize you with your mask. I was looking around. You know, I said some things on Facebook the other night about our chief, and I'll repeat some of those things. And, you know, I think, gosh, I don't know when we met. It was years ago. I know we worked together in law enforcement. The chief was with Hector DeBrule, and we both loved Hector DeBrule and their families. Then the chief went to Elgin, took that department, and he always worked with me when I was jail administrator, when I was law enforcement. He always worked with me and always was there to help in any way, whether it was advice or equipment or anything like that. But I can tell you one thing that I said on Facebook that made me so proud. I was at the police academy. He knows the story, and some of you know it as well. And I'm sitting there in a class, just about fell asleep, and they bring up Chief Harold Brown Elgin. They were talking about gangs, drugs, and what a model Elgin was in the things they were doing at that time. I believe it was the 80s or 90s, I can't remember exactly. But you would never know it talking to Chief Brown. He's such a humble man and such a kind man. And when I retired, he was there for me, helped me with some things I needed advice on. He had connections all the way up to the top at the police academy. And Harold, I'm very proud of you. Very proud of you. I'm very proud to call you my chief. I'm very proud to call you my friend. And you know, there aren't a whole lot of legends, but you are. And you'll always be in my heart as well. And I'm still there for you, and I know you're still there for me and the people of this community. Thank you so much for all you've done. And this is not, look, when you retire, it's not the end, it's the beginning. Look at me. You know, retired 20 years ago and still going at it. So you'll find out what you want to do and move on towards that. And I hope we get to do lunches together as well. I look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much.
And I'll close it out for a vote. But first I would say in the military, you always judge a man by how he leaves the unit. And he has certainly left the unit to the mayor and to the new chief, Chief Anders. And I know he'd say the same. Secondly, the family serves as surely as does the person in uniform. And I think that Kathy and the family here today should know that the county gives to you credit for what the chief was able to achieve. In the long nights he wasn't there, the nights you couldn't count on him for birthdays and for supper, and him leaving the house and you not being ever sure that he might not come back. It's a dangerous world out there, and he performed it with grace and style. He did that because he had a great family and the faith in the Lord backing him up. So with that, I'm ready to call a vote.
Mr. Chairman, one quick thing. Who got him here? Because he doesn't like these things, and he wants no public glory.
He's got a conspiratorial
I tip my hat to
family.
somebody, Mr. Chair, whoever got him here. So
He's got a conspiratorial family.
no, he's a smart man. If they said be here, he's here.
He listens to his family.
Correct.
So with that, I think we're ready to vote, and then we can hear from the chief in his own defense, if he's willing to come up. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it passes as a resolution unanimously. Chief, can we invite you up, or we just want to give you the award and you can sneak out the back door? We'd love to hear from you. All right, well then come on up and we'll take a picture with all your family. Please come on up. And I ask
Your
them-
family they need to come up.
They have to come up. Bring your family. And would you bring up the sheriff? Let's come up here, Chief, up here.
Come on up front.
And the sheriff and the mayor especially, because this is your colleagues.
They are now.
Have to anymore.
Miss Kathy. Yes, ma'am.
Join me in a round of applause. Thank you. We'll now move on to the next item, which is a public presentation by Clemson University. Go Tigers with agricultural burning policy. Ryan Bean, if you'll introduce it, it's at tab. It's no enclosures. I think we'll see a piece of paper from you later. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah. So thank y'all for having me here this evening and working with us to set this up. A little bit of confusion on the right process, but we'll get it in here. Any of y'all know us working with Extension, we do a little bit of everything. We answer as many questions as we can and putting people in contact with people they need to be in contact with to get their answers. But if you work with me, you know that one of my primary missions is educating people about prescribed burning and managing forests responsibly. So one of the things we're going to tell you about this evening is a prescribed burning resolution. And this evening I've got not just myself here, but Jonathan Calori with the Forestry Commission. He's an investigator with Law Enforcement Division there. We've got Johnny Stowe, who is the Heritage Preserve Manager with South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, but he's here to represent the South Carolina Prescribed Fire Council. And then we also are graced with the presence of Scott Phillips, our state forester, who is a Camden resident. And also, he's going to hide behind his mask. He doesn't want me to mention his name, but Cody Watts, who is our law enforcement supervisor for the county. He oversees the tractor plow operators for the county. But first up, let Jonathan come up here and tell you a little bit more about the fires here in Kershaw County.
Thank you, Ryan.
Mr. Chairman, council members, I passed around, you'll have this spreadsheet there in front of you. The basics of this, it just kind of gives you an idea of the top left corner has got what the smoke management notifications, these are those notifications for forestry, wildlife, and agricultural burns. And these are the number of notifications that were made in each fiscal year running July 1 to June 30th of the following year. So this past fiscal year, we only had 156 notifications. And if you'll notice, that's down from the previous years, but we had a large window in there for about 6 weeks where we were under a statewide burning ban because of COVID and trying to reduce the amount of smoke in the atmosphere to try to eliminate any other respiratory issues that could be out there. Versus the other notifications, the other notifications are going to be your backyard debris burns. People cleaning up their yards, burning their grass clippings or leaves, sticks, limbs, and so on. As you can tell, that number actually went up this year, and I attribute that to the number of people that were at home. They had a lot more time. They were doing lots more projects around the house, and so that number actually went up. If you look in that column to the right of it, we had between 2015 and 2020, there were 200 wildfires here in Kershaw County for just under 1,000 acres. And those can be from any of these causes that you see listed on the bottom part of the page. But in that, there were 6 homes that were destroyed or damaged and 18 other structures that were destroyed or damaged. And those could be outbuildings or barns or sheds or whatever. And then 21 other losses, which would be vehicles, fences, hay, could be a little bit of anything. But if you look in that column right below it, on the 5-year average, our number one cause is debris burning. 103 of those 200 wildfires came from escaped debris burns. Just about every one of those escaped debris burns are going to be those small backyard burns. I don't have it listed on here as far as the number of escaped prescribed burns that are out there, but that number is very minimal in the state. And it's usually from some sort of extreme weather event or something like that that has caused it to come along. But prescribed burning is a huge part of the ecosystem here in the South. It's very, and I'm sure Johnny will talk about this too, but We've got several species of wildlife that are very dependent on having prescribed burning and fire in their ecosystem. We have different species of plants and trees that are dependent upon it. And so it is a very important part, and it is a great management tool to keep our forest healthy and reduce the number of wildfires and the damage from the wildfires that we do have. Thank you for your time.
Hold on a minute.
Yes, sir.
Out of that debris burning, that's a high number there.
Yes,
I
sir.
burn a lot on my farms and so forth. Is that, how much of that can you tell me that didn't have any type of protection or any way to control the fire?
I can't tell you exactly just from looking at the numbers, but a lot of them that we get are escape debris burns where they either did not call in or did not take the proper precautions prior to burning, as far as having the area cleared around to bare mineral soil, tools, manpower, and equipment there to control it. A lot of them are just the little backyard fires, even those of people burning household trash, where they just go out and they've got the pile there on the ground and they didn't clear anything around it, is